October the 19th, Halloween returned to the big screen, just titled Halloween. Not the most original title considering it's a sequel, a similar scenario we had with the Thing prequel a few years back. After 7 sequels over the years to the original 1978 classic plus a remake that had a follow-up, Jamie Lee Curtis has returned to play Laurie Strode, set 40 years after the first movie. This new Halloween ditches all the other entries and ignores the remakes. There was a lot of hype for this film, having John Carpenter return to compose the score, and of course Jamie Lee is back. The fans were excited to finally see a worthy sequel to the original. Early reviews from the press were strong, further adding to the hype. Directed by David Gordon Green, who mainly specialised in comedies with such movies as Pineapple Express and Your Highness, and co-written by him with Danny McBride and Jeff Radley. This appears to be their first attempts at writing and directing a horror film, which may explain why the film works in some areas, and others it doesn't quite hit the mark. For the plot, as mentioned, this ignores all the sequels, even the original Halloween 2, and takes place 40 years after the events on that Halloween night in 1978. It opens at the Smiths Grove Sanatorium, where Michael has been locked up ever since and still has not spoken a word, and is due to be transferred to a maximum security prison. Michael is approached by 2 British true crime podcasters who want to interview him and provoke Myers by showing him his mask and mentioning Laurie Strode, but fail to make him speak. Laurie, since her attack in 1978, has been preparing for Michael's return. She has been dealing with post-traumatic stress, causing a strained relationship between her daughter and her family. As you might expect, when Michael is transported with the other patients to the new prison, the bus crashes and allows Michael to escape. With Michael now free, he sets out to get his mask and returns to Haddonfield to do what he desires most, and that's to kill. I was genuinely excited to see this movie, as the trailers were very good at building up the excitement for Michael Myers' return. They were very well edited. As I've been preparing my retrospective on the original film, I've also caught up with the mostly rubbish sequels, so I was hoping for something decent to wash out the bad taste of the last Halloween outings, especially Rob Zombie's mean-spirited movies. Thankfully, it didn't disappoint. It's not a perfect film, but I had a really good time watching it. I didn't sit there looking at my watch and honestly got invested in its story. It's a very simple and straightforward plot, which made the original one work so well. The director tries to capture Carpenter's style with slow camera pans and avoiding fast-paced editing, and plays things out in a more traditional way. David Green does shoot some great moments of Michael in the background, seeing his shadow as he sneaks past undetected. He manages to get around without being spotted, despite him just walking at a normal pace. You never see him run. The director does shoot things in more extreme close-ups, wasting the use of the CinemaScope format. So even with his attempts to replicate John Carpenter's style, he doesn't quite have the visual eye. Despite that, it's a well-lit movie and does look really good with its cinematography. I was surprised it was given an 18 certificate. I haven't seen an 18 rated movie at the cinema for years, not by choice, but horrors often get slapped with a 15 rating nowadays, so I was expecting this movie to be super gory and scary, but it wasn't really. There are certainly a couple of gory scenes, but the scares were pretty low from my experience. As the original did, there are a number of effective jump scares, which is the norm for all horrors, and it thankfully deploys them at the right time and doesn't just rely on them constantly to frighten the audience. But overall, it didn't quite deliver on the scare factor. Me personally, I'm a bit of a pansy when it comes to scary movies, and I jump easily. Thankfully, I didn't embarrass myself this time. It was great to see Michael Myers return to this force of nature that is supernatural and just out to kill. He obviously wants to kill Laurie, but he murders anyone who comes in his line of sight. That's what he enjoys doing. He just walks into a lady's house and batters her to death with a hammer. She has no connection to Laurie, he is just out to kill as many people as possible. That's what makes Michael so frightening. He is just a blank face who is always lurking in the dark to get you. Jamie Lee Curtis is always great to watch. She is a fantastic actor and falls straight back into the role with ease. Everyone in the film sees Laurie as this paranoid broken woman who isn't taken seriously by her family, apart from her granddaughter who feels sorry for her and wants to be closer to her. Once Michael has escaped, Laurie instantly wants to protect her family and goes on the hunt for Michael. He now becomes the hunted as Laurie attempts to chase him down. With it just following on from the original, the writers do reference the other movies in subtle ways, and even some moments homage the other movies. For example, the scene in the toilet felt like a moment taken from Halloween H2O. There are kids with pumpkin masks on as a nod to Halloween 3. They even play off the connection to Laurie and Michael as some myth to debunk their family ties. I'm sure there are other moments sprinkled throughout that hardcore fans should appreciate. or maybe get really annoyed with, as it just ignores previous events. I was really impressed with the score by John Carpenter and his son Cody, with the help from Daniel Davis. It's great to see John composing a new score and reusing the iconic Halloween theme and updating it and adding loads of new material that doesn't feel out of place with the series and perfectly captures the tone and adds to the suspense when needed. With many movies now just ditching opening title sequences, it was a pleasant surprise to see a proper title sequence with the Halloween theme and the same font for the credits. Overall, it's certainly the best sequel to the original film. It's unfortunate it's not really scary and mostly relies on jump scares here and there. To its credit, it manages to bring over the same suspenseful atmosphere of the 1978 classic and treats it with respect. There are some moments where you know something is going to happen, so it leaves you on edge. These are the moments that worked for me, but they are very few and far between. The script is not watertight, as they introduce characters who disappear halfway into the movie. This could be a result of them trimming scenes to improve the pace, as it doesn't really affect the narrative. You just have this sense that some sequences of character development are missing. The film is clearly made by fans of Carpenter's work. I do, however, think for younger moviegoers that aren't familiar with the series and didn't grow up on the franchise, may see it as a bit tame compared to more recent horror flicks. But I think for the older viewers who appreciate the long-running franchise should have some fun with it and enjoy what it's trying to do. I would give it a 3.5 out of 5 rating. I would certainly recommend it, but don't go in thinking it's going to be the scariest thing you've seen this year. Just enjoy the ride, watching Michael Myers do what he does best.